Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's a very special episode of the LMTV. Today we are interviewing a person that absolutely needs no introduction, Mr. Gerald Combs. Good morning, Gerald.
Good morning.
It's great to have you on. And also let me introduce my other partners in crime. Paul Offord is actually from UK right now. And he runs a company. Paul, can you talk a little bit about yourself? Introduce yourself to Joe. You actually attended Sharkfest yesterday, so Gerald probably knows you already.
I did. I attended Sharkfest and I presented, but I don't know if Gerald was in the presentation. I'm from the UK and I'm from a company called Advanced 7, and we troubleshoot IT problems. And we're using Wireshark probably every single day. So I've got a lot to thank you for, Gerald, because it's a great tool and we use it all the time. So
and in case you have a list of bug lists, today is not the day to bring it up. And let's not forget Tim. Good morning, Tim. Good afternoon.
Good morning, guys. How's everybody today? Gerald, it's a real honor to have you on here after all the years we've known each other. And I'm really looking forward to harassing you personally at Sharkfest this year.
So Tim, just in case there are two people out there who doesn't know Gerald, can you take 30 seconds and introduce Gerald and then go ahead and ask the first question?
Well, Gerald started the open source tool called Ethereal back in the
1998.
Yeah, and in the late 90s, when Sniffer was this big, huge commercial tool, and here comes this Ethereal tool, and it didn't take very long for almost everybody that was in the industry to grab hold of it. And I don't even know how many people have connected to Wireshark, which is now called Wireshark. It was Ethereal, now it's called Wireshark. Gerald and I used to sit around and estimate how many people downloaded it, and it's into many of the times 10 area. We don't even know how many times, really. I think I estimated it was at 450 million in one little time frame that we had kind of monitored it. So I use Wireshark with teaching. I use it for diagnostics, and everybody that I know that has been to any class that I've done, Betty's done, Tony Fortunato's done, Mike Panacchi's done, Chris Greer's done. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Wireshark is the core diagnostic tool for networks today. Whether you're doing forensics, you're doing visualization, it is an incredible tool. And Gerald has, one of the unique things about Gerald is he's got all these volunteer developers that he somehow has kept happy, and they contribute like you won't believe. I mean, this is not a one-man tool. It's truly, in my humble estimation, a universal tool because so many people have jumped in to help out. It is the most well-known diagnostic tool in our industry by far, and you've done a great job, Gerald. And on top of that, Gerald, you're a great guy. I've known you a long time, and you're a great guy to be around.
So go ahead and ask the question, Tim.
Well, I think the first question everybody has about this technology is, how did you get it started? What motivated you to do it and make it an open source tool? Because it just as easily could be a tool for sale.
I initially released it as open source because at that point I had used a lot of open source software. I started out as a programmer and then a system administrator at a university and then at an ISP, and I really quickly got into open source and started using it and eventually started writing open source software, and it was at that time a no-brainer to release Ethereal as open source because it was the correct thing to do. And I think that really has borne out because as soon as I made that first release, I immediately started getting contributions from around the world, and we really built up large developer community and then a large user community. And I'm not sure that that would have played out the same way if I had released it as a commercial product.
Well, there are a lot of products that people release as open source, but with a codicil, hey, if you want, you can contribute money to the organization. And of course, I think that dilutes that open source, everybody in the world contributing, and you've done an incredible job. So, I mean, what do you think? The next question I have is, where do you think we're going to go with this technology?
Well, first let's say what it is. Wireshark is two things. Wireshark is a dissection engine. It takes packets, that you give it, and breaks down those packets into little, information elements, fields, and tries to display those fields in different ways. And that's where we get features in the product, like display filters and the protocol tree, and pretty much everything that you see in the product. Wireshark is also a community, as you said. It's a very large developer and user community, and my job is two things. My job is to make that dissection engine as useful as possible to as many people as possible, and my other job is to support that community as best I can and let them do the things that they need to do. Fortunately, I have a large company, Riverbed, backing this and helping out. It's kind of humbling how well and how big is this is all become, how it's all worked out. But as far as we're going to go in the future, we have to go where our users are going. And one of the questions I've been getting for the past few years is okay, how do I get Wireshark on my iPad? And kind of giving a funny look, and because how do you do that? You're not going to be able to capture packets on the iPad without jailbreaking it or breaking a warranty. But at the same time, you have this little useful device format that it would be useful to be able to explore packets on. So how do we get from capturing packets off the wire to displaying them on this little tablet? That's a problem that we still need to solve, and it's just one example of problems that we're going to have to solve for our users in the future.
Well, to me, that's moving. I mean, it's hard enough to capture good, consistent, real-time, near real-time, or relative time, as I refer to it, on a computer. Start putting that on pads, and next thing you know, they'll want it on cell phones, and it may push it too far and dilute the overall. I mean, Wireshark has the best dissector in the industry today. There's no one who does anything better than you guys do.
Yeah. So Gerald, I also want to talk about Sharkfest, which is going to be starting in less than a month in June, and this time. I noticed that you keep moving towards the wine country, and one day you're going to succeed, and we're going to be doing this in the vineyard. But you're getting close. But before we
hold on, if you track the movement of the conference linearly, we're going to end up in Sonoma or Napa Valley.
That's right.
If you track it circularly, we're going to end up in the ocean.
But you're also doing something else. I understand that you're leaving for a trip to Asia, and you're bringing a few people with you. That's something new, isn't it? What is that?
That's something we've been doing the last couple of years at Riverbed. One of the things that I do at Riverbed is I go out and speak, give talks for our customers and things. And next week I'm flying to Asia. I'll be in Singapore, Kuala Lumpur, and Jakarta. I'm going to be there talking about Wireshark, but this is sort of a mini Sharkfest. It's because we only really have Sharkfest in the West Coast in the U.S. around in and around San Francisco. A lot of people can't attend, so one of the things we do at Riverbed is we'll send usually it's Hansang Bay, Charles Kaplan, and myself out to different locations around the world, and we'll I'll talk about Wireshark, Hansang will talk about protocol analysis, and Charles will talk about the monitoring industry at large, and it's a really useful thing for our customers. I mean, of course, Riverbed's not doing this out of the goodness of their heart. Riverbed would be thrilled if everybody who attended these went and bought 12 of our appliances for every data center that they have. But that's the ultimate goal. But for the Wireshark community, it's very beneficial because it lets me get out and kind of spread the protocol analysis love around the world, and it's something I enjoy doing.
So this is bringing instead of having it's doing the reverse. It's bringing the technology and the people to the users. Yeah, that's great. That's great. And you said that this is not the first time then.
No, it's something that, like I said, I've been doing the past couple of years. We've done a couple of Asia trips and a couple of trips to Europe, and even within the U.S. We'll go on our travel.
Excellent.
And after the Asia trip, I'm also doing a live presentation in New York with Hansan. So this is the next couple of months are actually pretty busy.
Wow.
My dance card is full.
Wow. So let's turn our focus now on Sharkfest, which I said is coming up in less than a month. What's the evolution of Sharkfest, you think? I attended a few of them, and we had done some interviews in the past, and I'm always amazed at the level of the quality of the people who attended Sharkfest. What's the evolution?
It's actually, we've evolved slightly over time. Initially it was just a conference for developers and users, and then I think a couple of years later we added a vendor appreciation night, because vendors are actually a big part of the community as well. And it's evolved slowly, but at the core it's the same. It's a conference for people who are really interested in protocol analysis and who want to share that information. We keep attendance pretty small because we want people to be able to talk to each other and mingle and share information. And I think that works really well. And one of the comments that I heard a while back was that Sharkfest is one of the few conferences where speakers go to see each other's sessions. Usually you go to a conference, speaker shows up, they're done, they drive to the airport and fly out. But here at Sharkfest, people stay the whole length of the conference, and they go and they interact with each other and go see each other's sessions.
No, I can speak to that because we record with the consent of the authors. We record the sessions, and in the past we record with the video camera, but more and more now we record with the software, so we capture the audio as well as the presentation. And most of the people that come up to me that says that they ask to be sure that I'm recording the sessions are in fact other authors. They're kind of upset that they're upset that they can't attend. Well, people tend to yeah. I mean, there are a few authors out there. Like Hansan's presentation, everybody want to attend that.
Yeah.
And if they happen to be doing the session while Hansan is speaking, they want to make sure that it's recorded.
Yeah.
So Paul, you have a question? You've been very quiet and polite, but that's because you're trying to be British.
I have all these questions.
Okay, yeah. Well, just pick one.
I'll pick one. Gerald, in your keynote speech last year, you mentioned about integrating some process monitoring type captures within Wireshark, or I don't know if you're intending to actually drag them into dump cap or what it is. Could you expand on that a bit?
That's kind of been a sort of a holy grail for me for a long time. And there are commercial solutions like Riverbed. Riverbed would be glad to sell you, say, App Response Expert, which will dig deep into your application, show you all sorts of performance metrics and things like that. And it is a great product. But I of course want to see this in Wireshark. I want to be able to click on a packet and see. I personally want to see okay, what process generated that packet and the username and maybe even get a bit of a stack trace. And that's not an easy problem to solve. And interestingly enough, there's a tool that just came out called Sysdig. Sysdig was written by Loris Dejuani. He was the original author of WinPCAP. And Sysdig will let you actually do a lot of this digging. And it's still kind of in its infancy, but I'm really excited about it and interested to see where that's going to go.
Yeah, because I noticed that Microsoft with Network Monitor have started to integrate ETW events into the traces. So I guess that the principle's been proven.
Well, yeah, I think it's a very natural thing, and I haven't looked at it that closely. I'll have to be honest, but what Network Monitor is doing, it's actually a Microsoft messaging it's a messaging-oriented product now. I mean, that's what they're evolving to. And that's a very natural progression. You have these packets which are actually events. They're network events. Why not tie them in with other events like system events, system I/O calls and things like that. Yeah. And even, well, if you're security-minded, you're going to latch onto this and say security events and other things like that. So, it's a very natural thing. But the trick is that you've suddenly greatly increase the amount of information that you have to process. So you have to be careful about, how you limit that, because you don't want to exclude anything that's interesting, but at the same time you don't want to overload your monitoring system or the system that you're monitoring, because once you start digging into system events, you have to add load to that system, because you have to tell that system that you want to pull stuff out.
Yeah. I mean, some of the things we do is we often have to correlate process monitor events with Wireshark events, and it would be great to have that integrated. That would be really neat.
Well, what we've done to sort of lay the groundwork for that is PCAP-NG. We've had support for the next generation packet capture format for a long time. Even going back to version 1.0, but with each major release, we add more and more to PCAP-NG, and so it's quite likely that you'll see this sort of stuff start showing up in PCAP-NG, and it already has. There are other projects like there's something called the Hone project, which is geared towards pulling process information into PCAP-NG, and they're doing a good job of it.
I'm going to push my luck before Denny cuts me off and ask you another question.
Well, I'll come back. I know you have more questions, and we definitely want to get to that. But let me just, if you notice on your right-hand side, Gerald, there's a Q&A panel, and a gentleman had asked a question. Kevin, he says, how do I get T-Shock on my Google glasses? Now, notice he says my Google glasses. So here's a gentleman who spent $1,500 on a piece of hardware that was obsolete the minute he opens it. So we should probably answer that question.
I can answer it probably and just say
no. Tim, let Gerald answer the question.
The first thing that you have to do is root your device and void its warranty. If you're comfortable with that, then actually in the Android store, I haven't looked at them that closely, but there are packet capture programs. A lot of them even have Wireshark in the name. These are not official packages, and like I said, I haven't really looked at them. But Android underneath, and which includes Google Glass, is just Linux. There's a Linux kernel there, so of course you're going to be able, that little infrastructure to capture packets is there. Sort of like on the iPhone, iOS has a BSD-derived kernel underneath, and it even has a BPF device to capture packets. But the vendor doesn't support this at a high level, and so you have to go in and sort of hack into it and really dig in order to enable that functionality. And like I said before, once you enable that functionality, you have induced a lot of load on the system, so that's something you have to be careful about. But I think having Wireshark and Google Glass would be awesome.
Yeah, I think so too. I think maybe not Google Glass, but any kind of wearable devices. I mean, another panel members that he's not here today, but Chris Bahari, who runs a company, Garden Technology, is also a sponsor to Sharkfest. He was talking about how lately he was selling tabs to the Army to put inside Humvees. So it's an example that you don't think about of IT technology on the platform, right?
Yeah.
And so it wouldn't be long before we actually have this kind of capability on a wearable device. So.
Wouldn't it be awesome to have your Google glasses on and look at a network cable and see the traffic going across it, or look at the ceiling and see, where all the access points are in the building? That'd be great.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Or to answer that question it's not the network, and then you look at that, right? So, Paul, you're anxious to ask your follow-up question. You want to give it a shot?
Yeah, I'll give it a go. Gerald, one of the things that's becoming an issue, it seems to obviously be things around security. And I know that people like Jasper, I can't remember his second name, but Jasper's been doing some work on Trace Wrangler and
Jasper Bungers. Yeah.
Yes, so thank you. So these trace anonymizing tools. Is there any plan to put anonymizing functionality into Wireshark?
It's a big outstanding feature request that's been there a long time. I'd like to see it. It's just getting the resources together. Somebody's actually sitting down and running the code. Any major feature that you want to see in Wireshark, usually there's somebody else who wants that feature, but it's just a matter of getting somebody to sit down and write that code. Yeah, it's the same. We have our resources and priorities and allocations that I have to make it as an open source project, but it's the same with any other type of project, whether it be open source or commercial.
Is there a roadmap for Wireshark? Future functionality mapped out ahead?
It's a very informal one, just because since we're not a commercial product, we don't have dedicated dedicated resources that we can apply to various features. So, I have stuff that I have in mind that I will probably work on personally. That which is my own personal roadmap, and other developers sort of work the same way. But right now, we don't have an official sort of Gantt chart that says that this is going to happen at this point.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm really happy to have Riverbed backing us, but at the same time, we don't get millions of dollars from Google like the Mozilla Foundation, so we can't just decide to go do something and throw people at it. So
yeah, I understand.
Gerald, actually, Chris Bahari, I mentioned him just a little earlier. He is in fact watching the show, and he said he can't get online. So I sent him the link. Hopefully, he can get on before we finish. But it might actually be good to ask a question from the perspective of a vendor who is also supporting the show, right?
Sure.
By being part of it, by being by providing resources in whichever way they can, and you speak very highly of sponsors. You think that they're an important part. But on the other hand, the question is, do you get pushback from some of your more pure attendants that just really want this to be a technology show and not a selling show?
Not personally. Everybody.
Well, I used to be a vendor, so that might just be me.
My impression of the show, is that everybody's, happy to be there and, interested to see what everybody is doing and what they have to offer. I mean, the Sharkfest does range from people who are doing very low level, network level, hacking, people who will go and design and build their own devices, say Mike Kershaw he attends the show every year, and he usually has something really interesting to show that is usually a device that he built that does either wireless or wired analysis. We range from that to vendors like Chris and other vendors that sell prepackaged products for users, and that's, I think, actually one of the charms of the show. One of the things that makes it interesting to me, at least. I love seeing all this stuff together.
In the beginning, we did get pushback, Denny. The sponsors wanted more action. They wanted to be more involved in the core, but that got pushed back.
So people are learning, and so
that's
a message to the vendors out there who are attending the show and supporting the show is that you really have to understand that Wireshark is all about the users. So even though you're bringing a product that has a price tag on it, you have to understand that this is not the place to push it to the user. This is a place to really listen to the user, understand the problem. And if it happens that your product is a suitable product, nobody's going to upset that you make a sale. But it's not a place to sell. It's a place to really build
Well, that's the thing. It's important to know your audience. You know,
Yeah.
Sharkfest is not a trade show. It's not a place where people go to look for stuff to buy, you know, over their next purchasing cycle.
Yeah, there is a spirit. I mean,
Yeah.
there's absolutely a spirit to the show, and if you don't respect that, then people will, you know, will make the assumption that you don't respect them, right?
Sure.
Right, Paul? I mean, Paul. You're kind of there as both. You're not a vendor, but on the other hand, you are a provider. So there's a commercial reason for you to be there. So you have to find the balance, don't you?
Of course, there's got to be a commercial aspect to it. Otherwise, how do you justify the expenditure? But you can promote yourself better. You know, you can promote yourself better through the implication that you have the knowledge because you're there presenting, rather than overtly being there and selling. And
well, that's the thing. The one thing that Sharkfest offers is a direct face-to-face channel with hardcore users of your product or your services. Like, you know, when I said it wasn't a trade show, that's, you know, I meant that it's a technology event, and
it's sharing event.
Yeah, you have to know your audience and speak to them, you know, at that level.
Yeah, I agree, definitely.
Yeah, because in the first few years that we tried to get sponsors, Denny and them, we had a little difficulty with they wanted more activity. And of course, Janice took control of that, and like Gerald said, we finally came up with this vendor night, which was more of an opportunity for the vendors to meet the users, and of course, they still can attend some of the displays and that, but it is all about exchange of information, learning. We have on Monday we have a newbies class where we teach them about newbies. Laura's got a class the week before, and during the show. Paul, you've been there, you know what I'm talking about. It's a lot of stuff going on that can very educational, super motivating, and most people that I've talked to that have left the, you know, after they've gone away from the show, said it takes them months to absorb all the stuff that they receive. So it's really an educational event, a technology sharing event.
I think Gerald struck on it earlier when he said that it's not many shows you go to where presenters attend all the other presentations. I mean, I missed their first Hansang Bay presentation because I happened to be presenting at the same time. Then he had a day off sick, and I thought, I'm not going to see him. And then luckily he threw in an additional session, and I got to see it. And you know, everybody's going to see each other's sessions, and
that's the thing. And you know, one of the goals with Sharkfest was to bring the, you know, Wireshark's core developers together so that we could talk and work together. But what usually ends up happening is that you know, a lot of us have sessions we want to attend because, you know, there's an interesting topic that we want to go see, and so what we've done in the past couple of years is make sure that we have a space and time set aside for the core developers to get together and meet, and dedicate some time to that.
Well, let me ask you another question, Gerald. It's a little bit self-serving, but you should expect that from me. How can we help better? How can Tim and I help better? We do a thing. We do Love by Tool. A lot of things that we do are very similar. We attend the show. We come and record the video and post them. Is there anything else that we can do that can help you or help each other?
You're already doing quite a bit. I mean, the thing, Sharkfest is wonderful, but Sharkfest is just 1 week a year, and we need to find ways to continue to do the things that Sharkfest does, throughout the year. We try to do that at Riverbed with, the little mini Sharkfest traveling shows that Hansang and Charles and I do, but we also need to do this continuously, and I think that's what you and Tim do with Love My Tool.
Mm-hmm.
You get people excited about this. You get people talking about the deep details of monitoring your network and capturing packets and analyzing things, and it's a very important thing that you do. Yeah,
one of the things that I would like to do, if not this year, next year, is to do a series of these interviews right ahead of the show to sort of build up some momentum. I mean, if you have, it might not be enough time to schedule interview with Hansang. He's very busy anyway. But it could be another author. It could be another vendor. It could be one of the developer. I'm hoping that we kind of build this up. We try this out with you, and then hopefully that kicks off. Give people confidence that they can come talk to Tim and I and other panel members like Paul, and just have another way of getting people interested in the subject matter.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to note while we're talking is we're going to be doing Janice, who is the engine behind Sharkfest. You'll agree with that, I guarantee.
Yes.
And then we're going to have Chris Greer on, who this year is going to be doing the newbie class.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm actually writing a paper for the newbie class to kind of help out with the reality of capturing data. You know, capture from a span port, expect this. Capture from tap, expect this. And the benefits of the different methodologies, because we have things that aren't taps, that are sort of taps out there. So I'm going to try to cover that. So Chris and I are going to, Chris is going to give that out at that class. Hopefully, I'll reach out to Hansong and Loris and some of the other guys.
Well, next year, I think Tim, you know, this year we'll experiment, but I think next year what we can do is if the show is again scheduled in June, we can dedicate the entire month of May.
That's what I'd love to do. I'd love to do that.
And just to get people excited, lay some groundwork, and ask questions that otherwise they wouldn't want to answer in a live audience. I mean, there's so much we can do.
Well, I mean, right now what I'd like to do is I'm going to try in the next few days to post actually the agenda of Wireshark so people can see the level of the presentations before they even get there. I know we limit. I think this year we're limiting the attendees to 300. But I think we've got a little bit of stretch room in there. We could go probably a little higher. Janice would kill me for this. So, I mean, if we can get people stimulated and excited about this and say, hey, I want to go hear that class. Now, they also will know that we're going to try to record as all of them we can and put them on Love My Tool so they can see them afterwards. But it's a big difference.
Hey, Gerald, it just occurred to me that Tim will be attending Sharkfest for the first time this year, right?
Yeah.
Are you guys ready for the damage? I mean, seriously. I'm kidding.
I've been involved in it from the very beginning.
I know. In fact, I remember you throw in all your connections to get some of the early on some of the speakers, and we were hoping that you would show up and sponsors and so forth. No, I think. Well, Gerald, why don't you tell Tim how much you like him?
Don't lie, Gerald. Don't lie.
Don't lie. Yeah.
Actually, no. Tim has been very, very instrumental and very helpful in helping the Wireshark community in a number of different ways over the years, and I really do appreciate that.
Okay.
Well, I appreciate.
Well, I think it's time. It's time.
The first Wireshark. I want to say one thing, Denny. The first Wireshark, they tried. I got Vince Cerf to speak.
Yes.
Cerf will be there again this year.
That was amazing. Yeah, I remember.
And
we recorded that actually. Yeah.
Yeah. But Vint actually tried, and Janice tried to, and Betty Du Bois tried to get it to me real time. But I was in the hospital and I was pretty doped up. So afterward they asked me, Did you hear anything when we mentioned it? Don't remember any of it.
Well, listen, you probably only have to bring half your medication this time because we're so close to Napa Valley. We can fix it. Why don't we close the show? We try to keep this to half an hour or so. And let me just select a last question that we should probably answer that I think other people want to answer as well, which is, Gerald, is there any plan? Is there any reason plan to expand Sharkfest into? How exactly is the question? Is there still any momentum for regional Sharkfest in places outside of California?
I was going to ask that.
Yeah.
That's something that comes up all the time, and it's come up since the beginning. Especially like a European Sharkfest or an Asian Sharkfest. And
now you notice that he used the word, is there still any momentum? This is the man who knows. So he's basically asking you, is this just all talk?
Frankly, I don't know. That's probably a better question for Janice, just because she's the one who actually does all the organization. Without Janice, this whole thing would fall apart. Let me say that up front. But
I agree.
we haven't been able to get other regional Sharkfests together yet for various reasons. We try to make up for that with the mini Sharkfest like the one I'm going on next week. But I would love to do that. I think that would be a great thing to do. The thing is, just getting all the resources together. Janice, it's quite a bit of an effort and a struggle to do one of these each year, and I can't imagine the strain it would put on her to have 2 or 3. But at the same time, it's something I would love to do. Something else that that kind of has a bearing on it is a couple of the core developers have told me that if we have a European Sharkfest, then they can't justify traveling out to the U.S. The companies won't sponsor that. They won't put the bill for that. So I love each of the locations we've had so far, but I would also love to have Sharkfest, say, in Europe or somewhere in Asia. That'd be great.
Okay, good. So, Paul, I'm going to ask you for a favor. Can you do something for all of us who benefit from Sharkfest and Wireshark, and just tell Gerald how much we appreciate him?
I think, well, I think for us, Gerald, for me and talking for me and my colleagues, we use Wireshark so extensively now. We're basically building our business on it. I mean, we are using other tools, but we found that the combination of Wireshark and Excel for visualization and things like that to produce reports is tremendously powerful, and I can only thank you for putting in the time of the development. I guess I should add one thing, as I am a European. We had a problem recently when we were teaching in Denmark where the use of the full stop, the period as the decimal point, the timestamp gave all sorts of problems. So could we have some localization? That would be my only wish from you.
The localization is a continuing thing. We fix those problems where we find them, and if you do run into a problem, please report it on the bug tracker so that we can get it fixed. But as far as the project itself goes, I mean, I'm just the guy that runs the web server in a lot of cases. My job day-to-day amounts to being Wireshark's janitor, and Wireshark is the thing that it is because of the community, because of people like you, because of the developers, and the rest of the user community. And it is a really humbling thing to be a part of, and I can't thank everybody enough. It's been a great adventure, and I can't wait to see what comes up next.
Well, we look forward to seeing you in less than a month. So with that, Tim, is there one last word that you want to put in before we close? I know
if you ever have
you put this together with such short notice. It's amazing.
Well, I had Gerald's help, but if there's ever a major problem that Gerald won't listen to, send it to me. I know how to read it. Now, Gerald, look, I gotta tell you, man, having been involved in the diagnostics going back to the beginning of time, or just thereabout. I knew Moses when dirt was a rock. So I've seen you do some incredible things with Wireshark, and I download it regularly and play with it, and I use it in forensics all the time. And I got to tell you, man, I don't know how anybody could have done a better job. And I do hope that in the next couple of years we do one in UK. I know that Janice and I have talked about it, and she's cried a lot about it. But it would be incredible. I think we would. I do believe that within the next 5 years, before I'm gone and dead, that we're going to see Wireshark for Sharkfest in more than just California. I do really believe that. And thank you for all you've done to bring this together. And it is really a miracle. You brought so many people with egos that are so varied to do something that's incredible. So thank you.
Well, maybe, yeah. I think I can see someone doing what Gerald does. I don't think. I think it's very difficult to do what Gerald does and not have the class of ego.
You're talking about yourself there, Denny.
I'm sorry?
You're talking about yourself there, Denny. You're just projecting your own personality onto the rest of us.
Well, no, I'm humble. I'm really humble by Gerald. It's amazing guy. So anyway, with that, we'll close the show. Thank you, Gerald.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Tim. And we'll see you at Sharkfest.
All right, see you there. Great to meet you guys again.
Cheers.
Travel safe next week.